The guardian in the dark. It started as a low growl, almost imperceptible on the first night. Emily and Mark Dawson, proud parents of their 3-year-old son, Noah, had recently moved into their new home on the outskirts of town. It was a picturesque little house with a big backyard, perfect for raising a family. Everything seemed ideal, except for one unsettling detail. Their loyal German shepherd, Max, had begun growling at Noah's room every single night. At first, they thought it was just an adjustment phase. Max had always been protective of their son, often following him around the house and watching over him when he played. But this was different. Every night, as soon as the lights were turned off in Noah's room, Max would sit by the door, ears pricked forward, his deep, guttural growl filling the silence. "Maybe he's just anxious about the new place," Mark suggested, scratching Max behind the ears. "Or maybe he sees something we don't," Emily said with a nervous chuckle. They tried everything to calm the dog down, keeping him in their room, leaving a light on, even letting him inside Noah's room, but nothing worked. The moment darkness settled in, Max would tense up, his growling intensifying as he stared at the empty corner of the room. Then, one night, Noah woke up screaming. Emily and Mark rushed to his room, their hearts pounding in terror. Noah was trembling in his bed, his tiny hands clutching the sheets. Max was standing protectively in front of him, his fur bristling, his growl turning into a full-blown snarl. His eyes were locked onto the closet door. Mark flicked on the lights, but the room was empty. Noah clung to Emily, sobbing. Bad man in my room," he whimpered. Chills ran down Emily's spine. "There's no one here, sweetheart," she said, though she wasn't so sure anymore. That night, neither parent slept. They took turns watching over Noah, Max never leaving his side. The next day, Mark decided to install a baby monitor with night vision in Noah's room, just to put their minds at ease. What they saw the next morning made Emily drop her coffee cup, shattering it on the floor. The footage showed Noah sleeping peacefully in his bed until 2:33 a.m. when the closet door slowly creaked open. At first, it looked empty. Then, the camera picked up movement. A shadowy figure, tall and thin, emerged, creeping toward Noah's bed. Just as it reached for him, Max lunged. The dog barked ferociously, snapping and growling, forcing the figure to retreat back into the closet. The door shut quietly behind it. Emily clutched Mark's arm, her breath coming in short gasps. "That's not possible," Mark whispered, rewinding the footage, but the same terrifying scene played out again. Without hesitation, Mark grabbed a baseball bat and stormed into Noah's room. He flung open the closet door, empty. Nothing but Noah's tiny clothes hanging neatly on their rods. Still, something felt off. The back wall of the closet had faint scratch marks, and there was a small gap between the boards. Mark ran his fingers over it, pressing lightly. The panel gave way. Behind it, there was a hidden crawl space, and inside it, a man. He was thin, his clothes filthy and tattered, his eyes wide and filled with madness. He scrambled backward as Mark pulled him out, yelling for Emily to call the police. Within minutes, officers arrived, hauling the intruder away. As they interrogated him, a horrifying truth emerged. The man had been living inside the walls of their home for weeks, watching them through tiny holes he had drilled. And every night, he had been creeping out toward Noah. Max had known all along. Emily broke down in tears, hugging their loyal dog, realizing that without him, the unimaginable could have happened. From that night on, Max was no longer just a pet. He was their hero. And Noah? He never slept without Max by his side again. The days following the horrifying discovery were filled with police investigations, home inspections, and sleepless nights. Emily couldn't shake the image of the man hiding in their walls, watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. Max, their loyal protector, hadn't left Noah's side since that night. He would sleep in front of his bed, his ears twitching at the slightest sound. Every time Emily or Mark looked at him, they were filled with both gratitude and guilt. Gratitude for saving their son and guilt for not realizing the danger sooner. The police revealed chilling details. The man, identified as Daniel Henshaw, was a drifter who had been squatting in abandoned buildings for years. He had once lived in the house before it was sold to the Dawsons. The crawl space behind the closet had been his hiding spot when authorities previously attempted to remove him. But the worst part? They found drawings inside the hidden space, childlike sketches of Noah, crudely drawn in black charcoal on the walls. Some depicted Noah sleeping, others showed a tall, shadowy figure standing over his bed. One, in particular, made Emily's blood run cold. It was a sketch of their family with one extra person standing behind them. "Looks like he had been here longer than we thought," one of the officers muttered grimly. Emily couldn't stand being in the house another second. "We're moving," she told Mark, her voice shaking. "I don't care about the money. I don't care about anything. We're leaving." Mark didn't argue. That night, they packed up their essentials and checked into a hotel, unwilling to spend another minute in the home that had nearly become the scene of a tragedy. But the horror wasn't over yet. On their second night at the hotel, Emily woke to the sound of low growling. Max was standing in front of the door, his body tense, his fur standing on end. His deep, menacing growl sent chills down her spine. Then knock, knock, knock. Someone was at the door. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She glanced at the clock, 2:33 a.m., the same time the intruder had appeared in Noah's room. Mark, already awake, silently reached for the hotel phone and dialed the front desk. "We didn't order anything," he whispered, "and we're not expecting anyone." The receptionist checked the security cameras. "There's no one outside your door, sir." Emily's heart nearly stopped. Mark crept forward and peered through the peephole. Nothing. No one was there. Yet Max was still growling. With a deep breath, Mark yanked the door open. The hallway was empty, except for one thing. Lying on the floor, just outside their room, was a piece of crumpled, yellowed paper. Mark bent down and picked it up, unfolding it with trembling hands. It was another drawing, a charcoal sketch of their hotel room door. And standing outside it, drawn in scratchy, jagged strokes, was the same shadowy figure. Mark slammed the door shut. "Call the police," Emily whispered, clutching Noah close. But deep down, she already knew. Daniel Henshaw was still out there, and he wasn't done with them yet. To be continued. The police arrived within minutes. Mark handed them the drawing, his hands shaking. "You're sure no one was outside your door?" the officer asked, scanning the hallway. "Positive," Mark said. The receptionist checked the cameras. They didn't see anyone, but something was here. Max wouldn't have growled otherwise. The officers took the drawing as evidence, but their skeptical expressions told Mark they weren't convinced. "We'll check the security footage and sweep the area," one of them assured. But Emily already knew the truth. Daniel Henshaw was still watching them. That night, despite being surrounded by police, she couldn't sleep. Every creak, every distant sound made her heart pound. Max lay by the door, alert and unmoving, his ears twitching at the slightest noise. At 2:33 a.m., Emily woke up gasping for air. A nightmare? No, a vision. She saw Noah's closet door creaking open. A figure slithering out, its long fingers reaching for her son. She turned toward the hotel door. Max was growling again. Then scratch, scratch, scratch. A slow, deliberate scraping against the wood. Emily shot up, shaking Mark awake. "He's here," she whispered. Mark grabbed the hotel phone, but before he could dial, something slid under the door. Another drawing. This one was different. It showed their hotel room from the outside, but the door was open, and inside the drawing, there were no people, just an empty bed. Mark grabbed a chair and jammed it under the doorknob. Emily clutched Noah, her breath coming in short gasps. Then the doorknob turned. Someone was trying to get in. Max barked ferociously, hurling himself at the door. The handle rattled violently. Mark backed up, holding a lamp as a weapon. Then silence. The police stormed in moments later, finding nothing but the eerie drawing. But the security footage told a different story. At exactly 2:33 a.m., a figure appeared at their door. The footage was grainy, distorted, but it wasn't Daniel Henshaw. It was a tall, shadowy figure. No discernible face. No defining features. Just darkness. And then, it vanished. The officers tried to rationalize it. "The footage must be corrupted," one of them muttered. But Emily and Mark knew better. Daniel Henshaw had been the least of their worries. Something else had been watching them all along. Something that even the cameras couldn't fully see. And worst of all, it still wasn't done with them. That very morning, they packed their things, moved across the country, and never spoke of the house again. But some nights, when everything was quiet, Max would still growl at the dark. And at 2:33 a.m., Noah would sometimes wake up screaming, whimpering about the bad man who whispered to him from the shadows. And Emily would wonder, had they truly escaped? Or had it followed them? The end? Or is it?